have seen and heard and read about President Isaias Afwerki's first ever visit, a historical one in Russia, meeting President Putin, and different things that they have signed. Although these two countries have their bilateral relation for more than 3 decades, I think, ever since Eritrea became independent, but this visit was the first one. Now, seeing the dynamics in the world, the geopolitics, the shift of the geopolitical power, and then what's happening particularly also, which we are I'm very interested in which this platform is also very interested, is that related to Africa, also given the situation in Horn of Africa, in what countries are going through, meaning the neighboring countries in Horn of Africa. We cannot say, it's hard to say this is coincidental. In your view, what is the motive, what lies behind this visit of President Afwerki meeting President Putin?
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting, very important question. I will try briefly to explain how, from the Russian point of view, we are viewing this just recently finished visit of the president of the Eritrea, His Excellency Isaias Afwerki, to Moscow, whereby he was accompanied by the top-level officials from Eritrea, and they got meetings with the top-level officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russian Federation, and also the President Vladimir Putin also met his counterpart, and they discussed a lot of important issues. Just why Eritrea? Why now? You know what? Generally speaking, as for myself, I first came to African continent in 1982, and it was my first visit. It's almost 40 years ago to Ethiopia. So, and from that, more or less, all this part of my life up to today, I spend in Africa, and I see big dynamics, and I see all the changes, what is going on between the African continent and the other world. And we now zoom a little bit closer to the continent and see this very small country, the smallest, we can say it geographically, midget. It's just the smallest in Africa, with a population just 2 million, with 600. And Russia is a big geopolitical player in all this current situation. But why Eritrea? First of all, you know that from 2019, I think from the first summit, African summit in Sochi, we can see and we witnessed a big changes in the political relations between the continent and between Russian Federation. We were present there, and we were among organizers of this event after so long of time of Soviet Union collapsed and left Africa Americans, others, they were thinking forever. It was just a big gap when the Soviet Union and the successor in face of the Russian Federation never been active in African continent. But 2019, this is a line where the Russian policy towards Africa starts changing. And it's right on time when the global situation starts changing. Why? Because Africans as a continent, as Africans as a countries, they also they came to understanding and developing new Pan-African idea to be more independent in this process, and to find the solution from monopolar world to bipolar world. And when in February last year, because the 2019 summit a lot of expectation came. All African leaders were there. But unfortunately, 2020, last year in February, you know that special operation started in Europe, and Russia was involved in this situation, and it accumulates like a crisis situation in the global system. Elsewhere, we see that crisis is of course danger and opportunity. We are not going to discuss the outcome, the whatever casualties and all this stuff, but this situation in 2020 completely changed the whole picture globally. And Eritrea, among all other African countries, it was only one who voted very independently in the United Nations. Then didn't take the neutral position. They vote to support the Russian move. And of course, this we have to a little bit, we don't have time to go deep to the history of Eritrea, but after the independence in 1993, when finally Eritrea became independent from Ethiopian Empire, whatever during the Mengistu time, during the Haile Selassie time, Isaias Afewerki in his country, they stopped providing the very independent policy, which was, of course, didn't get any acceptance on that time, and even it brought some kind of worries of the monopolar world by that time by Americans and their partners, that this small country became too more independent that it's allowed to be in the current geopolitical situation. But it was a very bright example for the African countries, and they saw that the strict dependence on the financial system of the Western, let's say, bloc of IMF, and we have to mention Eritrea never been the part of the IMF system. So Eritrea, being small, being poor, being very not powerful point in African map, became a very too much independent and too much real, by themselves. They wanted to be more independent. Even this vote in the UN Security Council, when they say yes to support the Russia, it contradicts all other countries. And the only, as I already said, is only African country who supported this. And of course, the visit to Russia, it came second after the visit to China. And you did already very good analysis about the Chinese visit. If we compare to, I should say, very important difference that if the China, it was more about economy, because the policy of China as a second second superpower in this world at this moment. It's mostly about economics. All now the politics comes after economy. Sometimes even they ignore the politics, but they want to be beneficial economically. But visit to Moscow is a geopolitics. It's most about the Eritrea, as we can say, as a representative of Africa, wants to be independent in the new changing world all over the, and Eritrea supported, and I think it is very, very much in line of other African countries, that Africans no longer want to be dependent on anyone, not on Russia or China or United States. Africa wants to be alone as a center of influence. And Africa has all rights for this. Economically, it's the last continent which is not yet reached on top of the economic development. So the whole future of the world, we can say now, in your hands, in the hands of Africans. So that's why Africa wants to be independent, to play according to their own rules. And when they met with Putin and Kremlin, so they were discussing how to build the relations on the equal base. Even though Russia is a huge country and Eritrea is a small African country, it doesn't matter. We can build up the multi-beneficial relations on the equal base. So it was very important. It was what Isaias want to demonstrate to other world all over the globe. And I think it was successful. We will see, what Russia has to do now to return back to African agenda, to Africa. It's to put more economical programs, because we have also to balance geopolitics, politics, and economy. We have to start joint works together with Africans on the economic development of the continent. And Russia is ready for this. Very soon, you will see the big project, the state-owned, state-supported project in Eritrea, in other parts of Africa. Because as our Minister of Foreign Affairs many times mentioned, we never colonized Africa, and we want to help Africa to be decolonized now of the new colonialism, which we were seeing during past 20 years of the history of Africa and other world, especially United States of America and allies. And Russia, China, India, we can come now to BRICS to see that more independent economical blocks are coming to the arena now. And the role of Africa in these blocks, can trust me, my word, that BRICS will very soon get more African participants. South Africa was the pioneer of this because of big economy, but many other countries will follow. And this will be the block of economic independent countries: Brazil, China, Russia, South Africa, and more Africans who are welcome in this club. And the club that now is coming summit of BRICS. So we are always saying, and this is the position of Russia, BRICS is open. It's a BRICS, it's just a name. It's an abbreviation, but this is open to build up the multipolar role, where the Africans can find their own agenda in these big economic platforms, and we can move and start thinking about the trade using the local currency. We now, as Russia, we remember the Soviet Union time, the barter trading, when some of the countries like Eritrea too poor to pay back for the infrastructural project, we can do the barter trade, which was very heavily supported the Soviet Union African relationship and friendship during the Soviet Union time. So I think this visit, it was the first, but now because of the preparation for the summit, we will be having more and more bilateral contacts on the top level we already see our Minister of Foreign Affairs made 5, 7, 6 trips to Africa within a very short period of time. All these 20 years of sleeping, when Russia was told by the partners, by the Americans, so look, guys, you look after your former Soviet Union, whatever republics, you do the Asian part, leave Africa for us, we are here the hegemons. No longer can be this, because Africans they didn't accept. I'm an African now living. I see I'm in Uganda now. I just came from Ethiopia. The Africans, especially young generation like yourself, like Dr. Africans are ready to be the Pan-Africanists in their hearts. And they want to take the place in the global arena. You remember the Rwandan president, Kagame, who became the head of the Commonwealth. The BBC interviewed him, started again trying to put the agenda of teacher to student. He said, look, we don't want anymore to listen your instructions. We already passed graduate. Now, if you want to talk to us, come and sit. But we will be talking on one language as a settled person. You from that side, I'm from here. Otherwise, we know where to go, and we will continue our relations with the South to South. So what is happening in Russia, without analyzing this, it gives the new input and the new opportunities for South-to-South relations, which now will be growing, and this is the future of next 20 to 30 years economic development of the globe. Does our partners from West like it or not? It's a reality. They have to accept. Otherwise, you see now everybody knows, because the worry of Eritrea is only because the geostrategical location of this country. Somalia, Djibouti, and now here Eritrea. You see the 800 billion US dollars trade, import, export operation from China and Middle East goes to Europe through Suez. And Bab el-Mandeb, this is a gate. Whoever they control these three countries, can just stop this flow, and this flow of economy. And if it's happened, like you remember the piracy of Somaliland, if they stop this flow, it will be disaster for the globe. First of all, it hits the economy of Europe and the United States. So all this importance of these small countries on the Horn because of the location. And of course, the Navy presence of the all NATO in Djibouti, now it's balanced by the Mogadishu, whereas the Turkish Navy base created. And in Turkey, we don't forget that we have India and Turkey. They are new player in African continent. They are now compete Chinese with the investment in and out. And now Djibouti, right hand is Somali, which is now not controlled fully. That's why Americans give a lot of attention to Somaliland, even going to recognize this Somaliland. But it will not happen that they will be allowed to put the base there. So what they happen to be now on the small part of Djibouti, because Djibouti it's overloaded now of all this stuff and too much dependent on that part. But the Chinese are also there, and you see the one belt, one road. This is the key bone of the Chinese policy, and they already control our partners, the Chinese part. They control the global logistics. If you want to move your goods from A to B, in among 5 companies, 4 will be the Chinese who will give you the logistic line. And Russia wants to rebuild their capacity like Soviet Union. We also need to be present there. So I think that was the agenda. They were discussed during this closed door meetings in Moscow. And we will see outcome very soon.